this talk. I always start, as many of you guys who've seen me talk before, by doing the most important thing. And if you're new in the room, you'll be like, oh God, what she's talking about networking. But I started as head of household, which is a euphemism for single parent, but I think it's a more positive word than single parent, just because there's some pejorative terms around that. And I pulled out, like many of us did, 60 grand out of my portfolio. 60 grand out of my own personal mortgage. I worked full time. I had 2 kids. They're now 18 and 21. But at the time I bought my first little tiny baby flat 7 years ago for 79,000 quid. Absolutely terrified. Now, how could I build from that to having done well over 160 deals? In 4 years, actually. I built my own portfolio for 18 months. I built my portfolio, then I jumped out of my job. I'm officially retired. I'm 43, which is great. I work Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. And Tuesdays I work from home. How cool is that? And I do. I did work extraordinarily hard for 4 years, I have to tell you. Like, absolutely doggedly hard. And I have an amazing team. But how can you do that all on your own? The answer is you can't. How can you? So I have a wonderful team, an amazing team. If you go on our YouTube channel, you'll see loads of them featured. But also, how can you do that with only 60 grand? And the answer is you can't. Last year for myself, I bought 2.4 million quid's worth of property, including a grade 2 star listed chapel, which is rocking, and also my only loss-making property. I got a £1.5 grand discount, aren't I lucky? But why is it my favourite property? Because my baby boy, who's 18 and gone to college, lives in it. So it's the only property I pay for the Tesco shop, the gas, the electricity, the rent. And I lose like 100 quid on it because his flatmate pays the rest. And it is my most heartfelt, wonderful property ever. So how can you cannot do that on your own. So you know when you come to these, and I used to come into property events, this is where I started. I would come into an event like this, for anyone who's brand new, and I would feel massively intimidated, really scared. All these big people in property, this is terrifying. But actually, people are incredibly nice. People are incredibly thoughtful. And you can raise money, you can get deals, but what do you need to do? You need to network, that dreaded word. And that is how I went from head of household, pulling out 60 grand out of my own mortgage, to last year alone buying 2.5 million quid of property just for me, and as a team we've done well over 160 deals worth 30 million quid because we networked. But we didn't call it networking. We just liked people, captured their details, had conversations, hung out with who we liked and did business. So I don't really want to call it networking because networking feels a bit false. We only work with people we like. So before we start, we're going to do what for me is the most important thing, which is, if you want my slides, please fill out your details. And for the person who said I've already got them, you can't. This is a brand new talk that I'm really nervous about because I've never given it anywhere. So hopefully it will go well. So we're going to stop for just a second. And if you fill out the details, Jess, who runs our education and talk program, will send you the slides. And my gorgeous assistant is going to swing it, baby, with a champagne bucket and come round and pick all your contact details up so we can send you the slides. We're a very non-salesy business, so don't be worried. We will tell you how you can do business with us, but we're very much a content-driven business rather than a salesy business. I'll just talk while you're filling out, but if you can just pick your hand up and let Charles know when you've finished and you can collect them in. So why do I capture your details first? Because, and you guys have heard me say this, because when I was first raising money, and guys, last February, I raised £1 million in 2 2-hour sessions, which blew me away too, but that's because I built up such a solid background and a very strong network. So this stuff really works. But when I first started, I still worked full time. I was on jury service because although I loved my marketing director job, by 3 o'clock I got a little bit bored and I wanted to do property. And when they said you go on jury service, I was like, yep, I'm on. Whereas normally you say, no, I'm not going to bother. And I got talking to a chap, and we'd worked on 2 juries together. Great guy. And where everyone else was reading magazines, I was working like crazy in my property business because sometimes you have to sit there for a day and you're not on a jury. And then we went into our third juries, by which point he'd seen me make loads of phone calls to John the plumber, he'd seen my portfolio, we talked about what I was doing, he was in his 60s, he was a pub landlord, he'd done property in the 80s and made money. So self-employed, previous history of property, and he'd said, and I can't remember how much it was, I'll put either 30 or 35 grand in. Brilliant. I was still working full time. This was a very early stage of my business. You know what I've done now. We've done well over 30 million quid worth of property. So you can imagine how much money he would have made had I taken his card. Had he taken mine. Because we said, see you tomorrow at jury service. Yeah, cool. And no one who's ever said I'm going to put money in has ever backed out of putting money in. So it was a done deal. I forgot to take his contact details, he forgot to take mine because we're going to meet each other at jury service. We were in different juries and both of our juries were in deliberation and then both of our juries were discharged. And if you've ever tried to beg a jury clerk for a juror's name, they're never going to give it you, are they? Please, we were going to do business together, please give me his details. He lost the opportunity to be at the absolute beginning of my business. And look, I've done 30 million quid worth of property that we bought for 20 million quid. And I lost the opportunity when I really, really needed it to have 35 or 30 grand pledged. Because I stupidly forgot to take his phone number. So that's why I always start by taking your details and asking you, with the picture that somebody said, Sus, you look like a witch, to take home my details. And also, they did say it. To take home my details. And I'm going to give you some areas where you can get more information. If you've got some questions about property, about sourcing, you know, we were talking about HMOs and all that kind of stuff. We don't know everything at all, but we've done a lot of stuff, so we'll probably know a fair amount. So get in touch with us, email us, phone us. Because we're in a new office, our current phone number isn't working until January 26th, so email us. So take home my contact details and just think, who was that woman who was hugely energetic? All right, Sus, great. Okay, let's dig it out and ask her some questions. Are we all, has everybody put all the details in? Anybody outstanding? Are you swinging it? Did you see some good action going on there? Okay, we can start. And we've been very clever, haven't we? We've actually put up an amazing way of doing my presentation, which neither of us know how we've done it, but it tells me the next slide. I don't know. I'm good at property, terrible at IT. Right, I always start every talk with this slide, which is just to remind ourselves how simple and easy, and scary, but how simple and easy property is. It is finding, farming, and funding. And that is really all we're doing, isn't it? We find it, we farm it, we buy and sell it, we buy and keep it, we HMO it, we service apartment it, we do single lets, and we fund it. So we raise private finance, we do commercial funding, we do bridging, we do mortgages. It really is just putting those three elements together. Now within that, I want to start off by saying this stuff is simple. Those are the three elements you need to do. And of course you don't even need to do all those three elements yourself. You can bring others, like a tea lady, you know, whiz in with the trolley, to do things like the sourcing or the funding. Because when I started my 60 grand, I sure as heck could not. And one of our investors calls it mobilise, and Ash and I decided to call it mobilising because it sounds so much less scary. I couldn't mobilise 2.5 million quid in 1 year, but I mobilised 2.5 million quid last year to buy property. Sorry, it makes us laugh because they said we just get to mobilise our funds, and we're just like, oh, that's amazing. We're going to be mobilising all year. I could have bought like 1.5 houses, but because I could work with others, I was able to do more. So what I've decided to do today is partly talk through not so much my own trajectory. I'm going to tell you how you can work with us, but I wanted to look at what really is the goal here when you're creating wealth and property. And for my thinking, you're probably going to go through 3 stages. You're probably going to hope you're going to do 2 stages. Go from my job to financial freedom. Woohoo! But actually, this is what's probably going to happen. Go from my job to, oh my God, I'm terrified and I'm not sleeping and I'm working harder than I've ever worked in my life, to, oh wow, it's starting to work. Oh my God, it's really starting to work. Oh look, I don't need to work. I'm 43, I don't need to work. If I'd stayed in my JOB, or my job, which I adored because I like marketing, it was the SS Great Britain, it's a major museum, and before that I ran KISS, the radio station in Bristol. When, my first week I went up to the London KISS station and went, who's that? It was Rihanna, I didn't recognise her. Oh well, there you go. So down with kids. So the likelihood is you're going to go through a process. And has everybody or most people read Rich Dad Poor Dad? So you know the quadrants he talks about: being in a job, being self-employed, being a business owner, and then finally being an investor. And that's really the trajectory we're looking at doing, isn't it? And if you're after the elusive financial freedom, it is not having anything that is tied to your hourly rate and with your hands. It's about having assets which are managed, ideally managed for you, that bring you revenue. And with that revenue, you can go and buy yourself some shoes, or a car, or whatever you fancy. So I'm just going to talk through that trajectory. Some of what I'm talking about, you may not want to be a sourcing business. Don't even worry about it. I'm still picking out the skills you need, depending on what route you guys decide to follow. And I thought it would just be useful to roughly talk through our route, and then I've looked at different areas, so sourcing, I've looked at, I can't talk about everything in an hour. I would love to, I would absolutely love to, but I'll be here all night. And one thing I've realised, despite the fact that I always talk over my time, I've got to respect the fact that some of you guys have been working since 7 a.m. this morning. You probably had a sandwich and a Twix or something before you come in, which is how I used to operate. Full-time job, sarnie, straight into a property meet, and by 10 o'clock you're knackered. So I do have to respect your time. So I will try and stay to time tonight, which means I can't talk about everything I'd love to talk about. So I'm going to pick out what I perceive to be, if I was in the room at the earlier stages of my development, what are the absolute critical things I want, which is why I've picked out different aspects from that trajectory. So, just about 7 slides about us. Sorry, I'm bigging it up these days. This is us. We do sourcing. I've forgotten now the number of deals. We're on 163-ish deals that we've sourced, and we've done that in 4 years. I started this business 4 years ago next week. 3rd week in January, 4 years ago. Kitchen table, telephone, computer, pot on Nutella when I got nervous. And then 3 months later, oh come on, it's scary, isn't it? 3 months later, I brought Ash. I used to buy deals from Ash. He's a former estate agent. If you've seen some of our videos on YouTube, he's now sporting a beard. We're about to shoot another one, and I'm like, mate, in 5 years' time, that video's still going to be on YouTube. Are you sure that's cool? And he's like, yeah, my beard's cool. We'll see. But he was a former estate agent. He's now 26, so he came into my business when he was 22 to work for this mad lady from her dining room table, which promptly went out of the dining room straight into a property to be posed up, so he had to come and work on the kitchen table with me. Now 4 years in, he's doing extremely well. I'm very glad he decided to join us, and now we've had 14 and 11. We run a letting agency, primarily for my own portfolio. We made the difficult but nonetheless important decision to no longer let out properties for other landlords apart from just a couple. Why? Because letting agencies are transactional, low-cost transactions, and everything else in my business, if you want to talk about cultural values, are about lower numbers of transactions despite having done 160 deals and high-value quality relationships. And I don't want transactional. I don't do transactional, so we might as well stay about the relationship. Then development, buy and sell. Our strategy this year is to bring in 72 deals, out of which 50 will be buy and sell. Why? Because we're going for it for the cash this year. We're building a major war chest so that next year we'll start seriously building houses. We're building a few houses at the moment, but we're going for it seriously next year. So we're on a longer term trajectory, and then we do a lot of refurbs. At the moment, we've got 33 deals on the board being brought in, and we've currently got 12 deals on the board being refurbed. And we've only, at the moment, just as a blip, we've only got 4 properties that are currently being sold. And then I have no voids in my portfolio, but we have 2 rooms coming up this month. They'll be filled. Head office gets me here, very, very important. So all those deal makers out there, you need to have the equivalent number of admin back office time, which feels really weird, doesn't it? It's like, what, can I not just go and get a deal? Yeah, but actually to run a proper, scaled, comfortable business, and our business has never been comfortable. We have always pushed it, and we are absolutely on it. But you do need to make sure that your processes and procedures, and as many of you know, I'm a complete geek. Like, I was just waiting for you at the train station writing a spreadsheet, and I was very happy. And then we just do a little bit of this. I love doing it. I run one group mentoring program. And Charles, you just joined us. So we had our first day, didn't we?
We did.
On business planning on Sunday, which was brilliant fun. And on your seats, we've got a little bit of overview for you. to give you the core subjects that we talk about. Just in case that's of interest to you guys. We limit it to 20 people. We've currently got a small waiting list. The good news for me is I don't start, you all have to put bums on seats on a certain day because it's not my style. I choose people very carefully because I'm going to hang out with them for a year. So people come on and off like aeroplanes when it's there, they go. So we've got 3 people on the waiting list at the moment, but I think 4 or 5 people are finishing the end of February, so people will be able to join us shortly. And then last year we did a bunch of buy-to-sell workshops, which every single one of them sold out, apart from the one that we scheduled for the October holidays, which was hilarious. We're like, what? Why is it not sold out like everything else? And then we went, oh, that's why. And it was so cute. So we 8 of us, it was so big. It was so nice, actually. But every other one sold out because we scheduled them properly. And this year we're just doing 3 different workshops, which I'll tell you about. So basically I do this because I enjoy it. I am limited by Jess. She will not let me do more, which she's quite right, because in the nicest way possible, and I don't mean this in any shape or form rudely, Charles, that is the least amount of hourly income. It's great fun, but this is where we make money in property. The hourly rate is astonishing, particularly when you scale up a business. Bear in mind that I now work 3 days a week, which is delicious. So, oh yeah, there you go, that's where we're at the moment. He hasn't brought another deal in since I wrote this, but I only wrote this last week, so this is fresh off. 31.7 million, that is probably low. We always undervalue ourselves for safety's sake. So the reality is that's going to be higher. I am very, very cautious at our valuations in order that we get it right, because there are enough things that are going to screw up in property. We do not want to be one of those things. I agreed at 21.3, we know that, because that's the prices we agreed. But interestingly, really interestingly, considering the market has improved, and you think it was harder, when we did our review at the end of the year, Ash did his figures, because we put them into a spreadsheet all year and then we analysed them. Isn't that interesting? So we were used to doing 29.5. For 3 years we stayed stable at 29.5, and we're like, well, how's that? Every year it's 29.5. And nothing has changed in our valuation. We haven't valued them higher. Look at that. And I'm like, no, Ash, what's going on there? Why is that? Is it a couple of deals that made that difference? And he took out all of the land deals just in case that was skewing the numbers. No. So I don't quite know how, but he's getting better. And great, keep going. So these are a few different ways that you can benefit. I'm quite non-salesy. I will tell you how you can do business with us, and then it's up to you if you want to do business. If you want to book anything tonight, fabulous. If you want to book it in 3 months' time, that's just as good. So don't feel that kind of, oh my golly, I've got to lock my wallet. It's not my style. But it's important that you know how you can interact with us, and lots of it is free. So you can get our knowledge from Facebook and YouTube, which I'm going to tell you about. You can invest in our deals, which I think would be a jolly good idea. Can you imagine if one big guy had invested in us from the beginning, or lady? Can you imagine how wealthy they'd be right now? So we're a pretty good bet. You can join the group, the mentoring, or come and attend in one of our workshops. So this is the important stuff. Who's seen me on Facebook? Do you like chit-chatting? Do you get involved? Hopefully it's useful stuff for you guys, and maybe you'll have seen that we released 100 lessons. Those are lessons that usually it's because I've skinned my knees, my knuckles, my elbows, and probably my head on property. So when you read one of my 100 lessons, your job, if you want to accept it, is to figure out how much she screwed up on this to learn that lesson. Because this isn't stuff I've skated over the top on and gone, it's fine. This is usually something I've gone, oh no, I messed up again. So I've written 100 lessons, and we put them out on our Facebook page and our Facebook profile. And then recently, we've been really upping the ante on videos. Who's been geeking out on our YouTube channel? Less. So we get 1,000 views a week, every single week. So it might be 300 views each from each of you. Useful?
Yes, very useful indeed. Very interesting. And I like the way you do the properties up as well.
Good.
Yeah, the finish is very nice.
Good. We're going to see some of them later on. Oh, good. And I had somebody over there. What do you reckon?
Yeah, it's very good. Very clear.
Okay. And then with somebody at the back. Fun. Oh, wait till you see. Wait till you see the one with the surf hat. I'm normally a one-take wonder. Get it in, get it sorted, get out. Let's go and do property. We had to do 3 takes on the surf hat because Ash couldn't hold the camera still because I looked so stupid. It was really cold. So this, I'm discovering people are really benefiting from. Just look on YouTube for Susannah Cole. Because we like educating and we like talking property, we've got another 9 which will be uploaded in the next week or so. Just lots of snippets and stuff about property, loads and loads of free knowledge. So bag them, guys, and just sit there and get your popcorn going on. Right, few ways you can interact with us, but you have to pay for it. If you're interested in either just learning about us, if you want to come and learn about how we do things without being educated, I don't mind. Just as long as you go, Suze, I'm not here to look at being an investor, I just want to check you out. That's cool with me, goes around, comes around, but just let me know out of niceness so that I know where to categorise you. Come to an investor day, we do them every month. We sold out in January, which is next week, we've got the February one coming, 20 quid plus VAT. Why do we charge 20 quid? Because if we don't charge any money, which we're happy not to, 50% of people turn up. If we charge 20 quid, everybody turns up. So I know how many biscuits to buy. So we buy posh investor biscuits. We always go to a couple of properties. So we're going to go to
Custard cream.
No, nice ones.
Oreo cookies.
Now, you're talking to a girl who put 4.5 kilos over Christmas, which is good for me because I'm a weightlifter, so I'm very happy about that. So we always go to a couple of properties. We aim to always go to something that we're renovating that's like, oh, watch your step, and then we always go to something that's beautiful, just to show the difference. So we do 10 of them a year. You're very welcome to come on up. If you're new, it'll be very worthwhile because you're seeing a good property business in action. Get there early. My team stay at the beginning, and then they tend to slip off and go back to work while I take everybody round. So you want to, in a nice way, you don't really want to interrogate them, you want to interrogate them because they do most of the work. So get there early and grab them, I would. If you want to do some education with me, I'm just going to go over very briefly the 3 workshops. Very briefly, only so that you're aware of them. If you want to choose them now or later, that's cool. So we do raising private finance. We're going to do it in March. Whoops. Like I said, last February, I raised £1 million in 2 2-hour sessions. I hit the phone. I started at on Thursday at like 2 o'clock. Hit the phone for 2 hours. Went and made a cup of tea. Hit the phone for 2 hours. £1 million. Isn't that mental? I mean, I thought it was mental. I thought it was going to take me weeks. But even when I started with my 60 grand from my mortgage, I then raised 600,000 quid before I could jump out of my job in order to buy my first portfolio to then jump out of my job, to jump into a very full-time property job, to 4 years later semi-retire. So I teach raising private finance, which covers raising straightforward and also joint venture partnerships. It is on in March. It's $750 plus VAT, but because I've been skint, we allow you to pay either a reservation or the full price. We only have 20 tickets, and we've sold 4 already. And for a company that does loads of deals, every time somebody buys a workshop ticket, I have to tell you, we all high-five each other because it's dead exciting. Because property is property, but teaching is people, and it's really good fun. So if you do book, we will be high-fiving. The next one is buy to sell. Last year we did 8 buy to sell workshops 1 days. And one of my mentoring clients is a teacher who teaches teachers. She's actually just finished, Joy. And she came in and said, talking about the teaching and the learning experience, if you did a 2-day workshop, it will deepen people's knowledge. So she was really wonderful and gave me a lot of great advice about how to teach. So we've moved this to a 2-day, and we're doing one in April. We will do a second one later in the year. So this one, that's the only one I'm doing in the whole year. Because bear in mind, I'm semi-retired, and therefore I'm not going to do masses of workshops. This one we'll probably do 2 of, I think 1 in October. And then sourcing deals, we will probably actually put 1 on in May as well, because I think it's a subject that people are very interested in. So we've got 3 workshops: raising private finance, sourcing deals, and buy to sell. And they're all weekend workshops. So if you're interested, everything's on Eventbrite. We do have forms here. You're welcome to book now, you're welcome to pay a reservation fee now, or you're welcome to just think about it and book later. No worries. And then finally, the group mentoring program. And on your seats, we've got the overview, just so you're aware about it. And if you like my style, call up Jess, put some time in my diary, and we can talk about your needs. I will only take you if I feel we can genuinely serve what you need to deliver, and if there's a genuine fit. I only take 20 people. We're in a gorgeous position, a waiting list, so we've got to make sure it's right. I am not cynically putting bums on seats. It's not my style. Right, there you go. Commercial interlude over. But at least you understand how you can interact. Loads of free knowledge. come up to the investor day, look at the mentoring group, or look at one of the 3 workshops. That's it. That's how you can work with us. Let's look at routes to wealth and property. I thought we'd got to start with the stock, which is the deals, because we've got to start to understand how we can create or how we can find the stock which creates the wealth, which is what you did in December, which is tremendous. Therefore, we're going to start around the subject of deal sourcing, and then we're going to look at how we can monetize that. And I just kind of decided to run it in the route that I took myself. You may decide not to do deal packaging, no big deal. I haven't focused on it enormously in this talk because I don't think it's a route that everyone's going to go down. But some of the skills within deal packaging are going to be relevant to package the deals for yourself. Because actually, whether you're the investor or whether someone else is the investor, it's actually the same skill set, it's the same thought process, isn't it? It's the same analysis. You wouldn't go sloppy in your own deals, or you wouldn't go sloppy in someone else's deals. So let's just talk about the kind of reports you need to produce and the kind of research you need to do, because all of these skills are almost interchangeable, whether you take deal sourcing, buy to sell, buy to keep, or any of the 3. And the chances are, once you move from your full-time job to a full-time job in property, you will do a mix before you move to a part-time job in property, which is where I'm at, to eventually, well, I'm never going to retire out of property because I totally love it, but the classic financial freedom where you actually don't need to work at all. And I officially don't need to work, I just really enjoy it. So, let's look about the deal. We're looking for the deals first. There are 3 ways of doing it. You can source from estate agents, and here's a straw poll. Who loves estate agents? Who doesn't feel comfortable or doesn't love estate agents? That's the reason why you're not getting the deals. Honestly, not everybody loves working with estate agents. Estate agents are your best route to deals, in my view. Fastest, the easiest, the least financially expensive, and yet not everybody is comfortable with it. So learn to love your estate agent, absolutely. So you're going to source from estate agents, you can source direct from vendor, and you can source from auctions. I have an hour, and I've been going for 19 minutes, so I want to pick out 2 of the 3. I'm going to talk about estate agents, and I'm going to talk about auctions. We also do direct to vendor. We stopped it for a while because it honestly made me cry, because I was in a house with a very sad situation. But actually, I think as long as you can retain your integrity, it's a fantastic way to source, but it can be very expensive with leafleting. We were spending £4,000 a month. So I want to start with the easier, cheaper, freer routes for you guys, because I'm not sure where you're at with your journey. So, for me, sourcing for estate agents, there are 9 routes. I can't cover all of them and then cover anything else, because that's a whole morning in itself. For me, it's the prep. And that sounds really boring, but honestly, prepare to fail, fail to prepare, that one. The relationship, which is what I'm going to talk about. The phone call, because what do I say? How do I go about it? Everybody's different. Let's talk about that. Then there's the viewing, and then there's the deal analysis. We're going to talk about that as well. So I've picked out 3, of the estate agent relationship areas. The ones I haven't talked about is offering professionally, the results, market stats, and then plan do review. It is something that I teach, but I'm going to pick out what I felt were the Susan, I have to know this to be able to proceed, and then you can finesse and learn the other ones later. So, estate agent relationship. Those that love estate agents, which is half of the room, they're people, aren't they? So rather than thinking, what do I need, which is a deal, think about what they need. And think about their work environment, and think about how you can best help them get to where they need to get to. And I mean that really properly, genuinely. So, they're working in a FaceTime job. If they're good, they're in at 8 AM and they're not finished and home till 8 PM, are they? 12 hours a day. It's pretty respectful. 5-6 days a week. These guys are grafters. The good guys are the grafters. The guys that stayed in the recession love property. It is in their veins. So they are one of us. They're grafters, they love property. Their boss is on their case. Monday meet, Wednesday meet, Friday results. The board is up there for everybody to see. How many phone calls, how many viewings, how many offers, how many accepted, how many exchanged, how many conveyed, and how many completed. Pressure, pressure, pressure. It's a sales environment, and they have to deliver. So my question initially is, and I don't do this, some people do, and it's cool if you do, why are you going in there and introducing yourself and thinking it's a really cool thing to do? Because honestly, you're wasting their time. Their boss is on their back, their results are on their back, they've got the computer system, they're in a clattery environment, you know, it's all wooden floors and glass and all very trendy, but there's no comfort and cuddles there, is there? And you're thinking you're going to take up 45 minutes of their time because you want to introduce yourself. Whilst it may be nice, you're not helping them get their job done, are you? Helping them get their job done is being a professional, credible, and solid buyer that never pulls out of a deal. Helping them get their job done is showing their boss that you have provided legal documentation to show this is my lawyer, here is a screen grab of my bank, here is my deposit proof of funds. I am professional, I'm going to answer the phone immediately to you, I'm going to respond and turn my paperwork around as fast as I possibly can, and I'm going to take up the least amount of time in order that you can get your FaceTime job, bless you, because you're working 12 hours a day, so that you can get the business done with me as fast and as enjoyably as possible. So if you look at Ash's video on YouTube about how to source, which is one of my most popular videos, he basically says don't be a plonker. This is the guy that's sourced over 150 deals, and he says just be nice. And that's it, you know, just be very nice and easy to deal with. And Ash couldn't actually source for the first 2.5 months that he worked for me. It was interesting, shall we say, to have started a kitchen table startup with my first employee who wasn't delivering on his job. I knew he'd be good, but he needed to understand, and that's what we're going to talk about, the core. So, for me, don't be selfish with their time. Only do properties you can buy, because actually, otherwise you're practicing on their time, and their boss is going to be whipping their ass. Develop a relationship based on delivery, not just, oh, how lovely to meet you. How lovely to meet you too, but buy me a drink outside because my boss is on my ass. Teach them how to invest. Most estate agents are not investors. It is so gorgeous to teach the young ones, hey, do you know what? I bought this property for 85,000, but I knew it was worth 130, and I spent £7 grand on it. You know that you can do that too. Can I show you how? Because frankly, one house is the same as another one. As long as it's not got subsidence, and I've worked out how many rooms it is, and I know what I'm doing, you know, new heating, new windows, blah, 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 blah. It's a 5-minute job to view a house, and then you've got 25 minutes with them. So why don't you help them and teach them? Understand what's happening in their life. You know, I know that one of my estate agents really likes guitars. I know that another one's really into motorbikes. I know that really sadly somebody's grandma's died. I know sadly someone else is separated from their wife and children. So we gave them a bit of advice around that. Understand who they are as people and see what you can bring to them to be helpful to them. That's how you start relationships, isn't it? And then just make their job easy. This is the most important one. Those with money occasionally go in and go, hey, can I buy a deal? I've got 100 grand. To you, that is a lot of money, and it is. And that is a huge amount of money for an individual person. To an estate agent, it is one of every other person that walks in the door. And if you're a plonk about it, you know, your card is going straight in the bin, you know, Mr. Chestpuff or Ms. Chestpuff. No, go guys, be humble. Because who gives estate agents respect? And yet they do an amazing job, don't they? They work incredibly hard, they solidly know their market, they're going to give you 50 grand equity, and they are absolute experts in their quarter-of-a-mile field. So treat them like an expert. You know, I got first in an MBA as a second degree, right? I'm a smart little cookie. Do you think I know more than the spiky-haired 22-year-old in that estate agency office? I don't. Therefore, he genuinely is the expert, and he genuinely, in terms of knowledge and status, is ahead of me. So be humble. They are the experts. Treat them with respect. That's how we get deals. As simple as that. So, making the phone call. You need to do some prep, because you are going to be making phone call after phone call after phone call. You won't get your first deal on your first phone call. Well, if you do, hallelujah, you've got to make another 100 phone calls before you get your next deal. So, it's a numbers game, a 100% numbers game. We make around 140 phone calls a week. We do around 30, 40 viewings a week, and we buy 1 to 2 houses a week. That's simple, isn't it? There are a few things. Now, this is stuff that you'll recognise, because this is some of the content I give my mentoring clients. I have a property viewing recorder, because you know what, when you see 13 properties in a day, you're going to forget which one is which. So I write down all the details, and the first page is all about the situation. Because actually, when it comes to buying deals, the situation is the most important thing rather than the house. Do you see what I mean? Because the situation that allows you to buy it, below market value, the house just not needs to be, for me, subsiding. Anything else I can deal with. Get your list open. We have 140 or so agents, maybe 150 agents, and we call most of them weekly. The posh ones we call every 3 weeks, and our favourites we call twice a week. Because we want to note when was the last time you called them. Because your behaviour will be, you start sticking to your favourites. And if you don't write down the last date you called them, and start to go, ooh, it seems to me I might have missed a whole bunch of them. So you need to record when you last called them, and then go, okay, pick up the ones where I'm less friendly, don't like them so much, aren't so comfortable with them. Get calling, guys. Deals come from anywhere. And then mass price or something like registry, you can have a calculator. And what you're going to do, and your diary, you're going to do the analysis while you're on the phone to the estate agent. I get my mentoring clients, massively embarrassingly, to record themselves with an electronic earpiece, which I give them, and a voice recorder. It's embarrassing, right? Because I want to improve their calls to estate agents. And you know what? A tiny bit of embarrassment and an MP3 whacked in, and Ash and I to stand around it going, no, is a lot better than not getting a 50 grand discounted deal, isn't it? So I'd rather they got embarrassed with me and then got 50 grand equity. The biggest mistake that people make is to get the deal, and I'm Ash and I going, you've got it, you've got it, you've got it, and they go, brilliant, send me an email. Whoa! Send me an email. The equivalent in your area of Ash or I will be in there half an hour later, we'll have bought it by the time you've read the email. You know, I'm over-exaggerating, but I'm not. You get a property that's exciting and hot, you go see it that afternoon, the next morning at latest. You make a decision on the phone there and then. The minute you say, send me an email, you are a time waster. I don't want to be rude, but you are wasting his time. You either make the decision, it's a potential deal on the phone, go, or phone the next person, and someone else will pick it up. So, I need you to do the analysis there and then. So when you phone the agent, think about their environment, not yours, which if it was me at the beginning is digestive biscuits, Nutella, cups of tea. Do I have to make another phone call? Yes you do, hurry up. Look where it got me. Theirs is a big flattery office, bosses on their case, loads of targets to reach. How many people do they talk to every single day? Who are they going to remember? So you need to help them slow down their thinking. Because if they slow down their thinking, they're actually going to think rather than react. If they're going to react, it's, hi, can I take your details? Thanks, we'll let you know if anything's come up. What do you want, a 2-bed? Right, fine, yeah, go on. You don't want a 2-bed, you want a deal. So you want to be asking for something with margin. And really, that's what you're after. Ooh, you're going to confuse them because you want a 2-bed or a 1-bed. What do you want? I want something with margin. Is there anything in your files? Could you please scroll through your mental filing cabinet? Do you think there's anything that might be useful that's got margin that I could buy and do up and sell or rent out? The first one is never going to be the deal. Straight away, see my voice? Can you tell them I'm mum? Put my babies to sleep? Slow them down. On purpose, slow them down. Because they're like, hurry up, get off the phone, I want to call the next person. No, honeybee, you're not getting away from me. Not until you've started thinking and brain has engaged. First deal is definitely not a deal. And what we do in the first deal, we go through the land registry and you go, well, number 42 sold for that, number 54 sold for that. Not chest bumping, because you are underneath them in terms of expertise. They are the expert. Be humble. But actually, why did that one sell for more? Why do you think this one's got margin? You know, in a gentle way, so that you understand their thinking. You want to be educated by them, not, what do you think that's a deal for? You know. It's never going to be a deal with the first one. It just isn't, because they haven't thought enough yet, because they're still like, get off the phone next. The second one or the third one is going to be your deal. So if you get to second and the third, now what I do is I just do the maths. How much? What do you think it needs doing? They don't know how much stuff costs. Estate agents are not developers. You might think that they understand how to renovate. They don't, purely because it's not their expertise, not because they're inept. They just don't know. It's not what they do. So how can they know something they don't do? So you need to know the cost of roughly of developing, 25 grand to renovate a 3-bed house. Job done. Yeah, that's it. In my area. I'm knackered 3-bed house. I'll show you a photo of the kitchen I bought on Friday. It's gorgeous. I sent it around to all my friends going, do you want to come for tea? It's mould up everywhere. It's 25 grand. Don't need to worry about it. So you need to say what needs doing. They will tell you what needs doing. You add up roughly how much you think it's going to be, and then you'll be able to say to them, well, you're saying I can get it for 100, but I need to get about 25% in margin in order to be able to do it up. So if we add in the 20 grand maths, do you see that's not going to quite work for me? So do the maths on the phone to them. If it's worth 120 and I'm going to spend, 20 on it, there's no real margin for me. So if it was worth 120, I probably have to buy it for about 80. Do you see how I work here? So you're teaching them, and you're also saying I'm filling out a form right now. They understand that because they've got to fill out forms every time they speak to you. So now they're like, oh, we're equal, I understand the thinking, and then they bring out the third deal, you got it. So slow them down, do the maths on the phone with them, look up the maths price comparables, look up 5 or 6 or 7 or 8, have your calculator furiously working out, if you're telling me it's worth 100, I've got to buy it for 80 with a 10 grand refurb. Can a full house renovation be a 10 grand refurb? No, it's 25, okay, that's not going to work for me. Have you got anything else? And allow them to understand how you do your maths, and they just go, oh, okay. And now you're working as a team side by side rather than aggressively against each other. And that's what you want. You want them on side. So, I take 17 minutes, Ash takes 10. I don't know, he's probably nicer than me or something, but you don't take 2 minutes. You want to slow them down on that phone call, and you want to make a substantial number of calls. Because the number one reason people don't get deals is because they're simply not making enough phone calls. It's a statistical model, this. On Sunday, at our mentoring, so you would think that we're sort of experts because we really know our stuff because we've done a lot of deals, but one of my very new mentoring clients, Dorothy, who's now bought 3 deals, we discovered we had the same statistics, didn't we? So, bless, it's not actually a function of expertise, it's a function of putting the work in and the deals come out. Because Dorothy has the same stats as I do, and that doesn't surprise me. Because statistically, there's only going to be a certain number of deals that are discounted within any area. So if you do the same amount of phone calls, you're going to get the same amount of deals. It's just graph. So, you've now got the deal. Great, well done. How are you going to analyse it? You're able to see it, you think it works. I'm not going to go over this in detail because there's quite a lot I want to cover with you guys, but I am going to send this slide out to you. But there are certain things within a deal report if you're selling it to someone else, within a deal report if you're selling it to yourself, your wife, your husband, your brother, your sister, or just buying it yourself, you really need to look at. So, on a buy-to-sell project, you need plan A and plan B. Plan B is basically what if it all goes wrong, which it will, inevitably, at some point. So plan A is I'm selling it, and I need to get 20, the industry standard is 20% return on capital employed. So, if the whole thing, purchase price, all the fees, all the financing, all the renovation, just to make it easy, costs 100 grand, you've got to be sure you're selling it for 120 or step away. Biggest mistake I see newer people doing, I got a deal, I'm going to make 10 grand. Well, brilliant, but that's 10% return on capital employed. When you discover dry rot, which I currently have in one of my houses, up both stories, charmingly, very nice of it, or roof problems, or floor problems, that 10 grand is going to be eroded rather rapidly, so step away from the deal. Whereas if you've got 20 grand in it, you can fund all that stuff and still make a profit. So step away if it's not got 20%. And you also need to think, even though you're absolutely sure it's going to sell, what if it doesn't? Inevitably, there's something that's going to stick. It just is. This is property. Property's put there to make your nights sleepless. Thank you, property. So, plan B is, I'm going to rent it out. And what's your minimal net yield I want you to have? 10%. We know this, yes. It's just the rules. So if you're new, write this stuff down. I used to have all my rules written in my purse. I didn't even know what yield was. For about the first 3 months in property, before I walked into Bristol Pin, I honestly did this, so I always tell the truth. I had a little slip that went, yield equals annual rent divided by purchase price. I'd slip it out, I'd go, yield equals annual rent divided by purchase. I'd slip it back in and go, hi, I'm property. Well, you don't know this stuff until you do know it. So, plan A, buy to sell, those are your 2 rules. 20% return on all costs, 10% net yield. Can't really go wrong then. You've got your seatbelt on, safety, helmet, good to go. Step away if it doesn't deliver that. There are so many more deals, even if it doesn't feel like it. Just get back on the phone, make yourself another cup of tea, get another deal. Number 2, if you're doing a buy to keep, an HMO, shared house, AST, service departments are highly, highly profitable as well, but involve quite a lot of work. but a very nice model. You got plan A and plan B really, haven't you? Plan A being I'm buying it for that, and plan B being, oh darn, I bought it to sell, but actually I'm having to keep it. I'm having to keep that asset. It's a terrible. I had to keep a number of assets last year because all of them were bought to sell, and the moment, Ash isn't my business partner, he's part of my team, but he's very much a sounding partner. The moment Ash had gone out for a deal, I was like, he's out of the building, apply for a mortgage! Because I love keeping property as much as I love doing buy to sell. So I want you to look at your net monthly profit after all costs, including 10% of your rent for repairs. So new people don't necessarily realise you just got to put 10% aside. Because inevitably, the roof is going to go at some point on some property. And on Christmas Day, one of your boilers is going to blow. And you need that money in the bank account to go, do you know what, boiler man? Here you go, please fix it. We want a gross yield as a percentage, and then we want gross yield as refurb. Some people do gross yield, some people do gross yield after refurb. I used to do gross yield, and I do gross yield after refurb. So write it in your purse if you don't know what it is. Return on capital employed or return on investment. So what cash, if any, have you got left in the property, and what's your return? And we want minimum 20%. Some of mine go negative, and I'm like, oh, that's because it's infinite return on capital employed, meaning got no money in it. Some of them are like 371, which is very nice. And then 1 is 5. Now, should I keep that one, or should I sell it? It's crap. Should sell it. I like it. I will sell it eventually. And then what kind of money is left in? And if you are leaving money in, which is a perfectly okay thing to do, how quickly is your payback in months? The maximum I leave money in for is 3 years, only if it gives me something like £1,000 or £1,500 profit net a month. In that, I'll kind of babysit it for a little while because it's going to make me between 1,000 and 1,500 for the rest of my life. Otherwise, there's no way I would touch any money left in over a year period if it was less than 1,000 to profit. And then equity craze. It goes on your balance sheet, can't eat it, might make you feel proud every now and again, but you know what, it's kind of meaningless unless you can eat it. Think like an investor. Try very hard not to get carried away and keep things like 5% return on capital employed just because you like it, because that's a really foolish thing to do. And as soon as you analyse that, you know which one you've got to sell. So think like an investor. Working with some of my millionaire investors has really showed me that I still sometimes think about lump sums cash. They all of the millionaires I work with think about return on capital employed. So, you know, bypass my thinking and move to theirs straight away. Don't get too caught up in it, of the romance. I mean, grade 2 star listed chapel, possibly we might have gotten slightly caught up in the romance of it, which is great. But I did tell Ash she could go to 220,000 at auction, and we got it for 135. Yeah, so we didn't get that caught up. And I have just bought a £500,000 grade 2 house, even though I adore the house I live in, just because I get it. It's knackered. £500,000 grade 2 house, it's got no roof. Yeah, it's be fine. But and it will be worth 750, and I'm going to spend 100 on it, so it'll be okay. But still, it's a bit romantic, isn't it? But the yield is the thing that's going to make you wealthy. If you did the maths on a yield, on a portfolio yield of 5%, 10%, 20%, you would die to see the difference. Absolutely die over a 20-year period. The volume of cash that's different is incredible. The geeks among you, go home and do that little spreadsheet. It's extraordinary. Okay, so your yield is your #1 flower, and be strict about it. So that's about buying from estate agents, finding the deals, making the call and the relationship, and then doing a bit of analysis, which of course is relevant for any kind of deal sourcing, even if you're buying from a deal sourcer. Don't assume that their reports are correct. Do your own analysis, and when we send you the slides, use that if you haven't got your own spreadsheets as a basis for making your own spreadsheets. One of my favourite ways of buying is from auctions. Who's bought from auctions before? So maybe 5th and 6th of the room? Who's been to an auction before? Okay, so what stopped you buying? What stopped you buying?
Price went above my budget.
Price went above your budget. Well, why weren't you there the following month?
I did, but there was other things there. I decided to source by other means.
Okay.
Yeah.
So we buy from auction every single month, but we don't buy from the room. you'd be surprised to know, we tend to buy pre-auction. I'm going to talk about pre, during and post because I want to highlight that you don't just need to think, like when I started, I just thought about going to auction and buying during the auction because that's what you did. And I'll tell you how to slow down buying from auction. It's really great fun. And I don't mean this in any racist way at all, it's not my style, but there was a bunch of white men builders, there was a bunch of Asian family groups, and then one white girl, me, drinking her Earl Grey tea. That was more or less the buying public at auction. And it's brilliant fun buying at auction, but actually these days, because we're quite efficient, we prefer to buy pre and post, particularly pre. We buy a house every single month pre-auction, so I'm going to talk about that. I also want to talk about, I kind of thought, what do you guys need to know? What is kind of critical about buying from auction? It's got to be the legals and the finance. Those are the two scary points, aren't they? Those are terrifying at first. Now they're really good fun. So those are the three things I'm going to cover. The legal overview, financing auctions, and then pre, during, and post. There are other things that I would like to cover, but I am now 45 minutes into my presentation. I want to make sure I cover most things. So those are the other areas that we cover on the mentoring, or when I'm talking about sourcing, we'll go into that in greater detail. I'm not going to go through this stuff because I wanted it printed out so I can send it to you so you go, oh, that's what they give me. That's all the gubbins the auction house is going to give you. Crud and corruption, as my lovely Uncle John would say. Great, that's very nice of them. However, this is actually what you can expect. It's going to be late, it's not going to be complete, it's going to be last minute, there are going to be last minute changes. When it gets downloaded, it can't be downloaded. Even if you can download it, which is incredibly lucky if you can, you then can't get it through the firewall to your solicitor. And that's happening 24 hours before the auction's happening. Because they only loaded it up 36 hours and you were asleep for 12 of them or whatever. So that is normal, would you say, for people that buy from auction? Is that your normal experience? Because certainly mine. So, oh, and their solicitor. Do you think their solicitor's going to talk to your solicitor in advance and answer inquiries? Yeah. So there you go. Welcome to the joys of buying from auction. However, there's amazing deals from auction, so it's well worth navigating all those joys of buying from auction. But I want you to know, if it's your first time, that your enormously frustrating experience is relatively normal. And therefore you go into it building plenty of time in advance. So a couple of little tips. Always instruct your solicitor to read the legal pack. Always. I always decide that I want to buy at least one of 4 properties if I go into an auction room. Why? Because I'm about efficiency. I am not interested in spending my time in an evening hanging out with a bunch of builders, bless their cotton socks, drinking my Earl Grey tea, if I don't come home with a house. It really pisses me off because it's a complete waste of my time. So I want to know that I'm going to buy at least one of 4 that I've identified. So I know my pricing for all 4, my lawyer's done the work for all 4, so I know that I've got a chance of buying at least 4. Make sure that your solicitor is available, because if they do a last minute legal announcement and you have not a Scooby, as I don't, what they mean, who are you going to talk to? Solicitor's gone home at 5 o'clock? No, you need your solicitor's mobile. So if your solicitor is not going to be prepared to give you their mobile, get another solicitor. Because you need to go, Laura, they've just announced this, what does it mean? and then when they say there's a change to the legal pack, Laura, can I just read you out this new paragraph? What does that mean? Because you need that advice. I would not buy without advice. Get a written report if you can, what I always did, and make sure, because there's likely to be some gaps in the legal title, there just is, that's why it's there. Make sure you can get an indemnity policy, and importantly, check that morning or that afternoon that the property is not squatted, that you're getting it empty, because otherwise, baby, they're your tenants, good luck. And also check that you can get insurance at 9 PM at night, because you've just paid a 10% deposit. And if it burns down tonight, it's yours. So it's stupid little stuff like that that's going to keep you safe. And it's actually really important. So what does that mean? It means you need the mobile phone number of your insurance guy, you need to have gotten the insurance in advance, and then you need to say, go, at 9 o'clock at night. So you need some pretty good people around you, which is why I talk about building your team if we go into sourcing in any greater detail. Because these are not normal people. These are property advisors that you need around you. Okay? Speed and certainty. So how do you buy from auction houses? Cash if you've got it, but not an amazing return on capital employed, but still you can buy. Bridging is great. Who is a little bit worried about bridging? Because it feels a bit scary? How expensive do you think bridging is? What's your guess, or what's your knowledge?
20%.
That's 20% over there. Any more?
1% a month.
How much?
1% a month.
1% a month, 12%? Any more, any less? Oh, 0.50, you're too cheap, sadly.
0.65.
I'll hang out with you. We're going to hug in the corner. And legal fees. How much do you think legal fees? Because what bridging companies do, they don't just give you the headline, they whack on all the charges, don't they? I used to pay £1,440 legal fees, cheeky sods. Now I work with Shawbrook, 8.76%. Is that scary? At 200 to 500 depending on the property for the survey, as opposed to the £780 I used to be paying for surveys. It's not scary. Legal fees of £780, and an exit fee, which often, an entry fee of 1.95 dropping down to 1.7 after the first one, and an exit fee, they used to charge things like, not Strawberry, other people, 2%, 200 quid. So all of this is very sensible bridging, isn't it? And that is actually the kind of funding that you're best going to auction with. Shawbrook or auction finance. Don't go with a mortgage, because will they be able to get it in time? Chances are is no, and you do know that you stand to lose your deposit after 28 days. Actually, you can have another 2 weeks, but you will be sweating, and I have done that, and you'll be charged interest. But if you don't pay, you've lost 10%. So you can't really afford to squeeze a tiny bit of percentage points off and risk losing 10% from you. So really, you're talking bridging or cash, or for us, we go to auction off from a private investor, but I need the money in the bank before I go. I'm not writing a cheque and then somebody pulling out. So let's just talk pre, during and post briefly. Here's some samples. This is what we sold this one the first week in January last year, after 11 days on the market. I bought it at auction for 103. I sold it after renovating it, and it took about 6-7 weeks to renovate, for 150. And the reason, she was gorgeous actually, her mum had Parkinson's and she wanted certainty. So she wanted to sell it pre-auction, because that allowed her not to be scared of going into the auction and maybe not having the money she needed for mum's care. So her reason for selling pre-auction was certainty. Her reason for selling at auction was, I will sell it, I need money for mum, but actually I'd rather sell it before the auction because this is too nerve-wracking for words. She was lovely. It's nice, isn't it? For a buy to sell, no cupboards. If any of you see my videos on buy to sell, I don't do tiles, I don't do cupboards, because I'm trying not to insult anybody. And this was a lower level socio-economic house. So look, white goods is not a fitted kitchen. Why? Because that stuff cost me 1,000 quid. And if you write with white goods when you're selling, you just cost yourself 1,000 quid. I put my white goods into 4 buy to sells, thus saving myself 4,000 quid before I put it into a 5th HMO, thus saving myself another 1,000 quid. So bump, 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 bump. Don't write with white goods. £330 a word. I have done it, and then gone, oh, I can't believe I forgot to take that out. Nice. Nicely set up. Those that have seen some of my videos, you know what we're selling there, don't you? Come on, tell me.
Sex.
Yes! I thought it was food. I honestly did, because I like food an awful lot. But my station was like, Suze, you're selling sex in bed. Keep it every time. We have a tray in every single master bedroom now. There you go. So that was bought for 103, 15 grand refurb, sold for 150 within 11 days on the market. Nice. This was at auction. This was my second house ever. I'm so proud. I love this one. Ash thinks like I should sell it. I'm keeping it forever. I didn't actually go into the roof, so I didn't actually realise that there was an aluminium roof. Oh well, yeah, it's fine. I would poke my head through the roof in the future, so don't make that mistake. Bought for 85. Refurbed for 7,000, valued up at 130. I would never ever buy something unless I knew what it was worth. I knew it was worth 130. 86 or 87 was my top price. I have no money left in, and look at the rent I'm getting. Isn't that good? That's a tremendous little cash cow. I have no money left in that. In fact, it paid me out, which was delicious, and I'm getting that kind of rent every month.
Is that a single let?
No, three sharers, and that rent is low. That rent is going up. In Bristol, we are now getting between £550 and £750 a room, whereas 4 years ago I was getting £400 a room. I've got 8 properties within my portfolio that I think are underpriced, and we are hot on the market, that I am putting up. I'm going to add I'm going to pay increase myself 36 to 40,000 pounds this year simply by realigning myself with market rates. Isn't that? Do you see why I want you to move from a job to a job in property to an asset manager? I sat there at Christmas and went, oh, I think I'm a bit undervalued. Oh my God, 36 to 40 grand. How cool is that? How cool is that? There you go. It's a lovely little beautiful house. I love that. Or if you see houses in Bristol painted blue, they're mine. They're always the same colour blue. I love blue houses. And then this one is after auction. Oh, sorry. This is during. So how to slow an auctioneer down? They go up in 5 grand, 10 grand, 10 grand, 15 grand, 15 grand, 20 grand, right? And then 5 grand, 10, well, obviously it's higher prices, but 5 grand, 10 grand, 10 grand, 11. Oh, we hate you. Now they've got to go up 12. 12, 500. Oh, blinking hate you. 13, 500. Do you see what's happened? That chest bumping fight that the two builders are having is suddenly I've dropped it from 5 grand chest bumping fight to a £500 chest bumping fight. It is a brilliant trick when you're buying at auction because the testosterone and the aggression and the energy in the room slow down. And then Berry Lane, post auction. This one didn't sell. There was nothing wrong with it. It was owned by a lawyer who was a bit up himself, let me be quite frank. He was an absolute pain in the neck to deal with. But he developed it, he'd overdeveloped it, quite frankly. There was no refurb at all. Sold it to us eventually, after a lot of wrangling, for 265. It was worth there and then 410. He needed the money because he was into another development. He thought he was Mr. Bigwig developer, he'd run out of cash. How good is that? We picked that up the day after auction. It's not a beauty, but it's pretty nice, isn't it? So, if you want to talk about deals, there's actually going to be one in May as well as October. So now we've talked about the deal, and we've talked about analysing it, we've talked about getting it. So now let's talk about how to make some money with that. And hopefully all these tips are going to be very useful to you guys. So you can package, I'm not going to cover that in any great detail. You can buy and sell, you can build your own portfolio. Packaging, just a couple of tips. You know when you see deals being sold for 2%? That may be fine for a single one-man, one-woman band, but that is a loss-making, scalable business. So if you are going to deal package, be conscious that you are selling something with 50, 60, 70, 80 grand equity. We charge 5% plus VAT, and that is a perfectly acceptable. We don't make actually masses of money out of our deal sourcing business. It allowed us to earn our stripes. It allowed us to understand our competencies. It allowed me to build a strong business that now buys and sells and buys and keeps with some deal sourcing. And that is on a 5% margin. So don't charge 2% simply because you will be running a loss-making business. Always undervalue the properties, always overestimate the costs. When an investor says to us, how much do you think the refurb cost is going to be? If it's going to be 10 grand, I always tell Ash to times it 1.5 times, because inevitably, do builders' costs go up or down? So why are we going to tell somebody what we genuinely think is the case when inevitably at some point it's going to go up? It's never ever going to go down, ever. And so I always tell Ash to, whatever we think, and we really know our stuff, tell the investor 1.5 times, because what do you think happens to an investor when we've told them, I don't know, 15 grand and it's only 12? They're quite pleased. But if we told them 10 and it was 12, they're pissed off. So always tell them it's going to cost more than you think, because occasionally it will cost more than you think and you're still covered. And then screen your investors. I won't go into too much detail. We talk about investors on you can come up and learn from investors and have a barrier to deter tire kickers. If I said who wants to buy a discounted deal, I'm sure everyone would put their hand up. If I said you actually have to pay me some money to join my group to get my deals, 3/4 of people put their hand down, which is cool because the committed people are the people I want to do business with. I only want to do business with people who are actually going to buy deals because it works for both parties. So have a gate or a pay envelope or a barrier that people have to go, I've got to think about that. That's good, because that over that gate come the people you're going to work with. Beyonce, if you liked it, you should have put a ring in it. It's the same principle. And if you need to deal package or borrow money, investors. Funnily enough, I'm not trying to be too salesy, it was not my style. I'm running one weekend workshop on how to raise finance. And we're going to talk about joint ventures, working with investors, deal packaging, and borrowing money. So, we've covered deals. We've covered very, very briefly running a sourcing business, because it's a very good on your way. Now, if you are working with a sourcing business, any sensible sourcing business will not be there forever, because they'd be crazy, wouldn't they? We've generated £10 million worth of equity. I haven't put all of that in my pocket or my team's pocket, but it is natural that any business who is running as a sourcing business will develop along the way. So, we won't be a sourcer for 10 years. One of the things we're doing strongly at the moment, because of the very strong economic area, is buying and selling. And I wanted to cover just a couple of areas there, because I wanted to give you some highlights from different ways that you can become quite wealthy in property. There I am going to very briefly flash up team building, which is like, oh, Suze, please, this isn't the sexy stuff. But you know what? Without a team, you're going to go not nowhere, but you're going to go around in circles, I think is a nicer way of saying it. And I also just want to show the added value, which is the stuff you talked about, my cushions. I own well over £1,000 worth of cushions, and they're all like £8. They're all from Asda, B&Q, Tesco. There's nothing posh. Why? Because they show well, and I get my stuff sold faster than anybody else. I also get my stuff rented. To me, these are all the routes of running a successful flipping strategy, and I just wanted to pick out two, so that over the whole talk I've covered a good area of property for you guys to go away going, man, my head's buzzing, that woman. Good, I've done my job then, haven't I? So, we will send you the slide. Don't worry about it. Look at all the people. If it's just you yourself, those are all the people you've got to work with, even if it's just you yourself. And do not fall into the trap of renovating it physically yourself. If you do the maths, even though you are like brass as a brass thing and putting your belt on and eating beans on toast, you will still be more profitable by paying someone else. A full refurb. Come and see the house I just bought on Friday. It is disgusting. It is absolutely gross. You go in and go, ooh, trampoline. That's 10 weeks. I'll have that baby out again in 10 weeks. So if I was to physically do that myself, it would take me 6 months. The loss, I would have that if I was I'm actually doing this one to rent out. There would be £3,500 a month I pull in out of this one. But if I was to do it as a sale, I'd have had it sold with a profit back in the time it would take somebody to physically renovate it themselves. Do not do it. Ladies, think that you need your nails manicured, and men just, I don't know, metrosex yourselves up or something. Do not do it, okay? You need to have one of everything in here, but actually, guys, you need to have 3. Because inevitably, at the point that you phone up your photographer or your gardener, something awful will have happened, their mum will have died, which happened with Pete, who's our most major gardener that we really love to bits, or Adam, as you know, our carpet guy, who I never had, that's wrong English, I only ever had one carpet guy because he was so stunningly good, so inexpensive, so reliable, so on it, so good. And a year and a half ago, I had a smelly dog house where I bought it for 203. We said it was worth 285, and I got it revalued for 330, which is cool, isn't it? And I phoned up Adam and went, Adam, right, ready for the carpets? Adam was front page news on the Bristol Evening Post, because Adam, bear in mind, this is Bristol, we are a bunch of hippies, well, not me. Adam ran a cannabis factory in his spare time. What? Adam, you nutter! He's out now. He's doing my carpets again, but I did 18 months not having a carpet guy, and I had to. So I, eat my own dog food. I only had one carpet guy because I never needed another one. Guys, have 3 of everything, because at some point you're going to have an Adam, aren't you? Hopefully not, but likely yes. And then.
Hopefully it's not one of your problems.
Yeah, that would annoy me. Sorry, I was going to talk about insurance there. Move on, Suze. I'm not going to repeat this stuff, but basically adding value, here's some do's and don'ts. Don't renovate like it's your own, but know your market segment. So at the moment, what is cool is a master ensuite, darling, because you are selling to the woman. As much as men, you would love to think that you honeybees have got the full decision in the home that you own. You're kidding. It is the lady. It really is, isn't it? And not just the lady, it's the lady and the lady friends and the lady mum and the lady daughter and the lady sisters. It is lady time all the way for buying houses. So you need to do what ladies like to do, which is shop. So you need to be a retailer, which is what I'm going to show you. I'm actually being serious. I'm kidding, but not. How many men buy house magazines? How many ladies buy house magazines? I consume them. I love looking at that stuff. So, who teaches you yourselves? B&Q or House of Fraser? Conran Shop or Homebase? Thank you. They're retailers. You need to be retailers, which is why I have £1,000 worth of cushions, because I'm retailing them. And I tell you what, they are in and out of those houses. And each kit costs about 2,500 to 3,000 quid. All my kit is super inexpensive. My beds are 89 quid. They've gone down from Tesco. They're lovely beds. 89 quid, that's mental. So, think about your end customer, and your end customer is a lady. 99 times out of 100. Think about the experts. You know, it's not me, it's the expert, which is the estate agent. They will likely tell you, if you can get it in, you want an ensuite in the master bedroom. You may decide not to do it, don't worry. But in a perfect world, you want an ensuite in the master bedroom and you want an open plan kitchen living room, or kitchen diner. Ideally with a separate living room, but definitely an open plan kitchen diner. You need a sofa in that bad boy. Why? Because she, who must be obeyed, is going to be cooking and wanting to socialise, isn't she? She wants company. This is life you're selling. You're not selling bricks and mortar or a sexy dovetail joint, because no geek bought that. They bought life and love and happiness, and that's what you're selling. So how do we turn this, which is one of my properties? In fact, this is the property my team are currently in a temporary house while we renovate the chapel. I walked in one day and went, whoa! Because my builders are taking out all 3 floors. Seriously, they haven't actually told me. It's that. It's nice, isn't it? I just do a little series of kitchens. Look at the lifestyle. Ah, look. Lifestyle says, let's have some coffee. Lifestyle says, now I think these are boggin, I have to tell you, but Tiffany told me to buy them. They're from Asda, they're 12 quid. And they're in so many of my photos. Lifestyle says, I will give you a bunch of flowers, you can have some tea. Lifestyle says, anytime any of my mentoring clients give me flowers, they end up in one of my property photos. That's from Joe and Josh. Lifestyle says you will get flowers, and look, honey, tea is served, because hot saucepans on the cooker says hot food. Oh, look, Lifestyle says tea is served, you can have some wine. And Lifestyle says, do you get the gist? Lifestyle says, let's have a cup of tea. Oh, look, tea is served, and you can have your supper. And then we know what we're selling there, don't we? So when you're... So puzzles?
Cushion.
No. Somebody once, in one of my talks in London, in John Corey's meetup in London, I said, what are we selling there? And a gentleman from the back went, 5 minutes with me. And he was no takers. No more, please. And then we are selling lifestyle. Where in estate agent photographs have you seen close-ups that you see in magazines, which is why all men who are property developers should also buy the lady magazines. I don't want to be sexist, I want to be shortcutting things for you. That stuff is from IKEA. That's like 50 pence or something. Doesn't it look hot? Because of some cute lens angle thing going on?
It's also the dressing. It's the little dressing underneath.
Yes.
Yeah, it's the way it's dressed.
Yes. That's like 50 pence or a pound.
Yeah.
That's right. IKEA. Every single thing in that shot is IKEA. That table and chairs is 99 quid for the whole table and chairs. There's nothing expensive about my kit at all. And if you don't know how to dress, or you don't feel comfortable about dressing, do you know what to do? Get your phone. I'm serious. I'm really serious. Go to IKEA, because bear in mind they pay people PhDs in product design, and we don't have PhDs in product design. Well, my children are so embarrassed by me. When I go to London, I go to the Conran shop and I'm just like, tourist, property tourist. I do it all the time. And then I take it home and do that. So go to IKEA, take a photograph of a kitchen that attracts you, and then write down where you can buy the stuff, because they're so nice, aren't they? They tell you where you can buy it. Get that photo, get the stuff in the buy to sell project and go, how did they arrange it? And just copy them. Why? Because they have degrees in retailing, and you are retailing, so just copy them, quite honestly. And all you have to do is put in a couple of expensive stuff so somebody doesn't go, IKEA life hack. My team, when we exhibited at Excel in London, we are all property professionals. We style up houses, not every week, but very, very frequently, like every other week, for sale, right? And what was killing me with laughter, we walk into this rather nice but not fancy apartment in Excel, and all of us went, oh, isn't it lovely? Every single sodding thing was from IKEA. And we are fooled by IKEA. And we do this professionally. So somebody who doesn't do this professionally is definitely going to love it. We were like, oh, wonderful. It's IKEA. We can tell you what shelf to buy it on. So just stand up. Look, those are B&Q. They're £12.99. I mean, it's a hot, sexy photo of 2 cushions. Woo! But it's different to every other house on the market. This is lifestyle, not, oh, there's a garden, isn't it exciting in this state, he's just done it on a drive-by. I pay my professional photographers like £100. I'm making 35 grand, or 40 grand, or 70 grand. What's a couple of £100? Bear in mind, you need a lifestyle, landscape, not portrait. I got my photographers to do many portraits on the very first one. I didn't even change the taps on this one. That's £20 from Tesco, and if you look incredibly closely, I didn't even change the sink. That is that god-awful shell sink for the soap. But I'm so tight when I do a buy to sell, if I can get away with it, I will not change anything, right? So I even featured that, like don't look, because you can hardly see it. 20 quid for a little soap dispenser. I got 5 of them. And a tiny towel. It kind of looks okay, doesn't it? You're just selling a lifestyle. And if you want to do buy to sell, you've got one in April. I am almost finished, so I hope that this has been a useful exercise, and I'm going to open up for questions in a moment about how to move from your job, where you're working full-time and going flipping X's and knackered, because you know what, mate, I've been working all day, I've had sandwiches, and I'm here tonight, and I want to change my life. And then you're going to slowly move from buying the deal, or finding someone else to get that deal for you, but the deal is the critical thing you start with, analysing the deal, understanding you can get it from estate agents, direct from vendors, or from auction houses, and then what do you do with it? You can sell it to other investors, earn your stripes, get your stripes going on. You can buy and sell it. If you don't have enough money, don't worry about it. We can talk about it in the bar. You can raise money from other people. We do a lot of joint ventures where we don't put any funds in at all for the deals. We also borrow a lot of money. So you can easily get funds from other people, because if you've got a deal, you have the cookie, investors will follow. You can keep it yourself for a singular, an HMO, or a service department. So buy and sell it, and buy and keep it. And as you develop, you will then get to the stage I'm at after 4 years of working full-time in property, where I am officially retired. I don't theoretically need to work financially, and I work 3 days a week because I absolutely clearly love it. And tomorrow they're having roast dinner, so I'm not working, but I might go in for roast lunch because they're cooking. We do roast lunch once a month, and it's on a day off. So I think that's not work. I think I'll just go in. But the end goal always is to build your portfolio. Because bear in mind what I said, that I have 8 properties that are slightly under market value on my rentals, and I'm going to put between £36,000 and £40,000 extra by doing nothing but changing the tenant, painting, recarpeting, and putting people back in. Isn't that crazy? If you're sitting in a job just now, which I was 4 years ago, do you think your boss is going to give you £36,000 to £40,000? And that's not with me buying any more property this year. None. That's me just putting the rent up to market rent. Isn't that crazy? And you can only do that if you're managing your assets. And so what I wanted to show you is that kind of trajectory, and it follows the path that I've taken and my team, and I'm pushing my team very strongly to buy property, from a job to a full-time work in property to an asset manager where you can afford to go part-time. And that's the route, isn't it? That is relative financial freedom, and certainly very good cash flow and very, very strong assets. And from a single parent to my only loss-making property, housing my 18-year-old photography son. It's pretty cool. There we go. Any questions? I'm sure there's loads, and I would love to take as many as you would let me, and then I'm staying overnight in the hotel, so we'll sit in the bar and have loads more afterwards. Questions? Go on. Hit me with some hard ones. I'll just go, I don't know. Yes?
I just want to ask a quick question. You said you talked about options, buying pre-auctions
Yes.
and post-auction. How do you go about getting those deals, buying pre-auction and post-auction?
So what is wonderful, they publish a brochure.
Yeah.
Put in your diary when the next brochure is coming out, and be on it immediately. So straight away you're doing desk research. I don't know how many, like we've got 4 auction houses, 2 are very good, 2 are kind of okay. And they'll have about 25 to 30 in each auction, and they're once a month. So we've got, a decent amount. So straight away we identify the ones within area that we like. We do desk research and we identify whether A, we can rent them out properly, B, can we sell them properly, and C, are they undervalued to the point, because the guide price is going to be very close to the price that they're going to allow them to be released for. So what ones are we interested in? Do it that day, phone up your lawyer and download the legal pack, which sometimes is free, sometimes you have to pay 20 quid for. Frankly, you know what, 80 quid in the grand scheme of life. I bought 2.5 million quid's worth of property for myself last year. It's fine. And you can do it too. Dorothy, my beginner mentoring client, has the same stats as me. Download the legal pack, get them straight off to your lawyers, and go and book the viewing. Now the viewings, they'll have them in 15-minute slots, probably on a Monday and a Wednesday, say, and you're in at like 10 o'clock on a Monday for that one and 10:15 on a Wednesday for that one. So if you're working, I'm afraid you're going to have to take some time off, or talk to your boss and say, can I have a... Well, actually I don't advocate that at all, so I was going to be naughty and say doctor's appointment. No, just take the day off, or take the morning off. If you're not sure about builders, go in with a builder if you possibly can, so that you understand how much it's going to cost, and straight away go into the auction house with a written offer with proof of funds and details of your lawyer. They will put it to the vendor. More people buy pre-auction than you actually realise. What you need to do is you need to have exchanged before it hits the auction. So human being nature, what it is, as beautifully professional as I like to tell you we are, we're usually skidding into exchange at 3:30 on the day of the auction that starts at 7 o'clock, because it's human nature. So that's how to do it, just like a normal house, but you've got 3 weeks to get your lawyer to get you to exchange and get your money across.
Thank you.
But people want security. So the councils will never let you buy their property pre-auction because it has to be seen to be fair. But like my lovely lady, she was adorable, my lovely lady in her 50s with her mum with Alzheimer's, she was desperately nervous and she wanted to know it was safe.
Thank you.
Any more good questions? Go
How
on.
do you organise the financing before the auctions? Because if you don't know how much it's going to sell for, how do you organise that funding?
Okay, so financing, I would always go, although I'm a huge fan of Shawbrook, I'm well set up with Shawbrook, so I would be comfortable buying from on auction finance with Shawbrook. If you've never bought from them before, I would suggest you go with a more specialist bridger-like auction finance, who are also very similar rate, 8.76, but they go up 3 percentage points at 6 months, whereas Shawbrook gives you 18 months. It's a tiny detail, but it is a detail. So I personally, if I was the first time I was ever doing it, I would get a decision in principle from auction finance well in advance of going to auction. So call them up tomorrow, know that you're going to buy from auction, crazy people that you are, 1 point this year, and say, can I do a decision in principle so I can understand roughly how much you'll give me? And then go to get the decision in principle to the maximum amount you intend to spend. I never go past my maximum, ever, because there's always another deal. And then the second you've bought it and you've shakingly written your 10% check and given it over that night, you are on the phone at 9 a.m. tomorrow morning with an auction finance. Often they give you their mobiles anyway, and you are applying then for security against that property. They are set up to do auction funding. So get a decision in principle so you're not sitting there terrified that you won't get funding to the maximum amount you intend to spend. It's not super scary. Well, it is. It isn't scary once you've done it a few times. It's terrifying at the beginning, but you'll make a lot of money, so do it. Hello. Ha!
Is your auction purchase price the same as your normal average purchase price?
That's a really good question, and I geekily haven't thank you. I haven't actually analysed the auctions versus my normals, so I'm sorry I can't answer that. My suspicion is my auction prices are cheaper than my normals from estate agents, in terms of greater discount, because people sell things cheaper in auctions.
So if your
But I don't
average
know.
purchase is 36% low, so
Was this
let's
year?
say 64.5, then your auction price you're saying is less than that.
Often it can be, yes. But I don't want to answer you, I never like to answer with certainty unless I've done the analysis, and I actually haven't separated it out. There's loads of things
Yeah,
out
but
there.
just as a guideline.
As a guide, I think it probably is a bit cheaper. But there's probably more sleepless nights in the first year of buying from auction. Now it's totally fine.
How do you value the properties? Do you do them on your own, or do you actually use a risk valuer?
No, you absolutely can value yourself. Now, you can't call it a RICS valuation, of course not, because you're not certified. However, this is how we value. I want 45 pieces of research before I agree to buy a house. By the time you've got 45 pieces of research, you know, you're pretty stable. We do an 11-page report on every property that we release, so we're pretty stable. So we want 3 sources of valuations. We want 20 sold in the area or within quarter of a mile, within an acceptable time period that is a similar economic time period. So there are a couple of ways of doing that. If you live in a populated city, job done, isn't it? Sold in the last 18 months maximum. If you are slightly less populated, you either want to go 2013 and 14, and then what was the equivalent? Don't ask me, ask your local estate agent. When were houses last at this price? So it might be 2006, 2007, we don't know. Ask your estate agent, and you take those 2 time periods just to get 20. You must get 20. And if you don't have enough in the absolute quarter of mile location, go, this estate, what kind of person would buy from this estate and buy from that estate? Again, it's not your knowledge, it's the estate agent. So what is an absolutely identical type of house, maybe a mile away, but basically the same person would buy the same house? So even if you haven't got 20, you can either go back in time or you can move geography as long as they are very, very similar. Do you see what I mean? So we want 20 solds, 20, nothing less. I want 20 on the market, i.e. on Rightmove, sold, subject to contract, or currently on the market. Again, use the same kind of tactics, either go back in time or jump geography, but they've got to be very similar time periods economically or social economic locations, you know. And then I want you to phone up 5 estate agents, just, you know, geeks like us, and go, hey, I'm going to be buying this property. What do you think it's worth done up? A1 market value. Cream walls, beige carpet. That's what I call A1 market value. Nothing fancy at all. So now and you know the one I trust is the estate agents, because I know who's good and who's a bullshitter. But if you don't know who's good and who's a bullshitter, you're going to take the triangle of all 45 pieces of research. 20 solds, 20 currently on the market, and 5 estate agent verbals. You cannot usually, touch wood, get your valuation wrong if you do 45 pieces of research. And you can do that in half an hour. Ash does it in half an hour. You start off doing it in an hour and a half. You get it down to half an hour. And then, when the estate agents come, when the surveyor comes to revalue my property, I very humbly submit my research to him. And do you know what? I get amazing valuations because I've done the work for them. Did you? Go on.
Once you've bought it from an auction,
Yes.
how long do you normally take to refinance?
So because I've got a larger portfolio, I can often refinance faster because the 6-month rule, it does exist, but certain lenders like Aldermore or Paragon, who I'm going to more frequently now, are not bothered about it. Because I'm probably riskier. Well, I am and I'm not risky. You know, if you've got 2 properties, you're still a beginner. It's Birmingham Midshires, TMW, and they're going to tell you 6 months before you can refinance. I frequently refinance faster because I don't apply for Birmingham Midshires and the mortgage works. I'm kind of more into the commercial side of life. So the theoretical 6-month rule does exist, and some mortgage providers will not allow you to refinance until the 6 months are up. I personally get in and get my tenants in fast as furious. We always sell our current houses to tenants based on the previous pictures of the previous renovation. Honestly, they're like picking themselves up over the workmen. You know what? And I always get my houses rented out before they're even finished. Mate, you can move in 2 weeks' time. There's no carpets at the moment, and half the toilets aren't in yet, but because we're selling it on our previous development. And then I will get Aldermore or Paragon, and I often need to refinance with Shawbrook because they've got long-term products, and of course they've got the security in the house anyway. The survey, and a week later I've got the long-term funding out. So personally, I refinance as fast as I can, often before the 6 months, with Aldermore, Paragon and Shawbrook. But if you're starting out, you will need to wait 6 months. But that's not a major deal over a 25-year life cycle. And you're paying 8.76 as opposed to 499. Okay, it hurts, but it doesn't hurt that much.
Have you still got 6 months if you're starting from bridging?
No. I'll refinance that bridging loan out as fast as I can. Yeah, absolutely as fast as I can. But just one tiny thing, Shawbrook, stinkers. I like Shawbrook enormously, but they're surveyors, stinkers. I had a fantastic deal. Norton Road, if anybody's come up, Norton Road, bought it for 300, worth 400, renting it out for 3,200 a month. Job done. Very nice indeed. 1,500 net profit. I got the surveyors in because I was a little bit eager. So I had it on short-term bridging with Shawbrook, and I was refinancing to a Shawbrook product. I got the surveyors in. All that needed was the carpet down. Literally, the carpet was going down the next day. And they went and valued it. It was just totally nice. And then they said we have to come back and revalue it. Oh, for heaven's sake. Carpets. So I had to pay another £100, which was not a big deal. I had to wait 3 weeks for them to come back out and revalue it. So with Shawbrook, don't get it valued until the carpets are down. Because like any other surveyor, whatever. But just be conscious of those tiny little details. That was a 3-week wait just because I was like a day too fast. Anyway, sorry.
Is there a maximum amount you're willing to invest in a single property? You've got sort of an average you won't go beyond?
Yeah, apart from my £500,000, woo! Let's go and have fun with grade 2. That's because I'm going to look. All my family have left home now, and I go and buy myself a 5-bed house. Like, it's because I want to be actually I like being slim, but I want to be a fat old granny welcoming everybody home. That's what I want to do actually. With loads of hugs, and so need loads of bedrooms. Yeah, I basically want to buy very vanilla and very mainstream. I want to buy. If we go back to retailing, I personally don't aspire to this, but I want to be between BHS and Marks and Spencer's. If you think about retailing, I am not Harvey Nicks. And I'm not pound stretcher. I want to buy where the great majority of the British public can buy from me or rent from me. So I'm staying very mainstream. So I'm buying between 80 to maximum 200s. I mean, for me, if I'm buying an HMO, I'll go up to 300. But if I'm buying to sell, the maximum I want to be retailing it out is 250 again. I really want to be retailing it back out at 180, 150, 175. I want to sell it where almost, not everybody clearly, but an awful lot of people can buy it from me. I want to stay safe. Richard Bowser, who's a good friend of mine, Property Investor News, told me that he saw a study where 50% of property developers, not investors, developers go bust. Now, I don't know where that study came from, and it's often because they go too big too quick. Whereas if you actually go big in terms of scale, yes, you've got a finite amount of money you make on each one, but if you do 50 of those bad boys in a year, it's not bad. And you're mitigating your risk very strongly. Because if it goes wrong, you rent it out. If it goes wrong, you drop it by £2.5 grand. £5 grand. It's gone. But if you're selling £1 million development, wonderful, but you've got way more than 5 times the risk when I'm selling £200,000 developments. And at this stage, I don't have the pockets to pick up £5 million developments when they will fall over on top of me. I'd be out of the game, and I'm not going to be out of the game. So I want to stay very BHS to Marks and Spencer's mainstream. That's how I think of it. But my rents, oh my God, they're ridiculous. They are stupidly, aren't they? We talked about it on Sunday. I think it's mental. One probably last thing, because I do realise the time. Have you now, who's under 25 in this room?
I got married when I was 2.
I am loving your enthusiasm. Have you not understood, that's the wrong word, because that sounds like terribly like I know something you don't. Have you seen the change in the next generation? She says, speaking like an old woman at 43. I'd love it. It's really fascinating. And the chairman of the National Landlord Association actually wrote about this, and I felt, because until that point I was just really puzzled by it, and I hadn't got a handle on it. I was just like, oh, it's really stupid. Because my generation, so I don't mean that rudely to them, but my generation was baked beans on toast, toast, porridge, buy assets, wasn't it? That's what we were brought up with. And therefore, that's how I think, that's how everyone thinks, isn't it? But of course, what happens is the zeitgeist changes as the generations develop. The new generation, which is my kids' generation, if they do this, I'm going to absolutely smack them on the back of the head. The new generation is all about experiences. And I didn't understand it. I didn't agree with it either. I thought they were really stupid. And now I get it. So when I was the boss of KISS, I had 25 young, cool, trendy things, and me. And 2 of us had pensions, and he was older than I was. The rest of them had Burberry bags, iPhones and overdrafts. And I really didn't understand it. And I just thought it was because they were really cool and trendy. But even Ali, who's the most sensible lad in my business, is paying $7.50 for a room. Not even one of mine. Really annoys me. Because this generation pays for experiences. And the chairman, and I didn't get it. I thought they were being stupid. All it is they have a different way of thinking and expressing themselves in terms of status. So now I understand it, because thankfully the chairman of the National Landlord Association said this generation expresses themselves in experiences and looks at the status of each other's experiences, not possessions. So if you think about it, it's logical. They've grown up with the internet running like water. They stream things. They're not interested, apart from the iPhone, they're not interested in kit, are they? Because they don't have kit, because it all comes through the internet. So they're interested in experiences, in travel, in holidays, in cars, in handbags. Okay, that is some kit. They're not interested in built-in beans on toast buying assets, in 10 years' time. They want to move into the beautiful ensuite, which looks like a hotel. Now I understand it, I service that market, which is why I get $7.50 for a room, which is mental, when I got $400, 4 years ago, because I service an experienced market, because the next generation thinks differently to how I think.
So what would you say would be the standard market rate for a room in Bristol?
Bog standard 400, still.
So it's still 400,
Oh,
but because
no,
yours
sorry.
are swanky, is it?
Sorry, no, 400 to 550.
Okay.
And we're getting 650, 630, 750, 700, 695. Because it's not.
Sorry, do you review that every year?
Now I'm going to do it every 6 months because it got ahead of me.
Yeah.
I didn't realise.
Right. So you're constantly thinking, I can get more for that. I can get more.
We discussed it on Sunday. I think review is too strong a word. Do I look at the 25-year-olds that are in my business that I employ and go, you're paying how much? And then realise that actually that's become normal and that I've actually got left behind on the curve. So as landlords of a certain generation, apart from these two, we need to understand that our generation, who is our customer base, actually has a different thought process. And then service that thought. It kills me socially. I think, my God, who's going to look after you when you're old? But as a landlord, I'll give you what you want, which is a hotel experience, you nutters, because you should be saving up. And if my kids did it, I'd be smacking them on the back of the head. But it's what they want. They don't want an asset to be dragging them. None of them do.
Susan, what's the difference in your £400 versus £750?
My £400 is just that I does everybody who's a landlord put the rent up every single year? I normally do it 2.5%, to be fair. My £400 is because I missed that the market went up faster than I realised. My 750's got an ensuite, my 650's got an ensuite, my 595 is now just a room.
I'm sorry, from the experience point of view, so what's the difference from, I know it's a £400 probably is plain vanilla.
Too cheap.
But 750 it comes with a ensuite.
Yep, 750's with an ensuite.
Maybe more kind of high-end, premium type feel.
Okay. And here's the only difference between my £400 now is too cheap. So here we go. I'm serious here. I'm not joking. This is the only difference. And then £9.95 from woolsandtiles.co.uk. White metro tiles with grey routing. It's very cool.
What was the website?
Sorry?
What was the website you mentioned?
Woolsandfloors.co.uk, I think it's called. They're 1.5 times cheaper than in B&Q because we buy them in bulk. I'm serious. I put that in the bathroom, I put that in the kitchens, and suddenly I'm a trendy landlady. Why? Because I read the magazines. And that is the cheapest, most effective way of saying we're trendy. And then, do you see my staging? We will spend 4 days staging up, and this is the other reason I get very good property prices, and then I do realise we probably need to stop. I will spend my team.
You can tell who's in control here.
Usually your dog come and bite my ankles. My team will spend 4 days literally staging a property, whether it's a buy to sell or a buy to rent. Why? So this one is my newest one. This is Norton Road, where I'm getting 3 3,200 for 5 rooms, which is not bad, is it? We spent 4 days staging it up, and we got ridiculous rent, and that just got rented out in December. But I have those photos for the next 10 years. I will spend £200 on a photographer and 4 days of Tiffany's time, stage it up, and literally they did the photography on the Monday from 9 a.m. to 1 p.m. and the first 3 tenants moved in at 2 p.m. Literally. So she was dragging the duvets back off the beds and you're not getting them, mate. The cushions went straight back into the car because they don't get any of the kit. Why would they? No, you got a mattress, mate. There you go. But those photographs are going to be worth their weight in gold for 10 years.
Do you have an issue then when tenants move out, when they come back, because it isn't quite so lovely and shiny, when you put new tenants in to replace?
Good question. Last question?
Sorry.
No, it's me. It's me because I like talking property. So what we decided this year, because I have huge pride on having no voids, I've allowed my team 5 voids per month maximum, and God forbid if they actually do it, for my entire portfolio as a KPI. I've never had 5 voids, 5 days void. I've never had 5 days void in my life, and I'm blowing well not starting it now. But out of ease, I will need them to give them something. So what we actually decided as a team, they better not hit that. They seriously better not. But what we decided to do as a team, in order to maintain the 750 prices, we will allow a 24-hour void, which is like, in order to get a professional cleaner in and a painter in if we need. So it is worth 1 day unlet, because you know for a month to keep that price. So now we automatically say, they're moving out in 4 weeks' time, great, book the cleaner, book the painter, get in there. Because it's worth it. But it still feels really weird having unlet for a day. Really weird. It's you though, isn't it?
So what would happen if you had, if it's flat,
Yes.
flat above,
Yes.
has a water leak and it all comes through your ceiling?
Then we just, then we mobilise using that word again. Then we go, Pete, help, quick! I mean, I run 2, they're not my firms. Pete has a team of men, a seriously good team of men. He's doing 20 buy-to-sells with us this year in terms of refurbs. Simon is doing 10, and then we're going to build 3, we're going to develop 3 more building firms because Matt screwed up last year, so we're not working with him again. I would phone one of my builders and get them in immediately. Yeah. So yes, that would, I've never had it yet, but it is going to happen. Yes.
Okay.
We would just get the guys in immediately. Oh God,
Okay.
and be panicking the whole time kind of thing.
Yeah.
Not panicking, but do you know what I mean? Fretting. Yes. I'm in the bar. Thank you very much. There we go.